when was the aha moment where you said, okay, this is there is a problem, I have a solution, I
Part of working at Flipkart,
Hmm.
exports is still a white space.
Hmm.
99% of our manufacturers in India don't actually export.
Hmm.
My observation was that domestic e-commerce really enabled all of these suppliers to sell online and to anyone across the country, right?
Right. What are the kind of challenges that you are solving when it comes to cross-border logistics?
Yeah. So the problems for the buyers start much before logistics actually.
A skill that you felt used to be taught, a decade back, and in a decade from now will no more be useful.
Like cameras, we don't see them anymore, right?
Yes.
Cameras, of course, but watches, I still wear a watch.
Hmm.
But most people don't wear like an analog watch anymore.
This is the Untitled Show. Today I have with me Shweta Agrawal, who's the founder of Tradyl, a cross border commerce platform for fashion and lifestyle. And I'll let her explain what Tradyl is. So, welcome to the show, Shweta. Thanks for taking out the time. And please tell us what Tradyl is and what is your vision for it.
Thank you, Bhavna, for calling me here. Tradyl, as you said, is a cross border commerce for fashion and lifestyle products. We enable buyers from across the world to buy fashion and lifestyle products from SMB manufacturers in India. So, any retailer or buyer, let's say in countries like US, Middle East, Mexico, etc., who themselves have very scarce manufacturing but need to source products, especially like apparels and home furnishings, etc., can source them through our platform.
Okay. So, how do the logistics work when you send out these products? What goes behind? What are the kind of challenges that you are solving when it comes to cross border
Yeah.
logistics?
So the problems for the buyers start much before logistics actually. They start right from discovery and design of the product.
Mhm.
When they're planning to launch something in the market, they start looking out for where they should source it from, what kind of supplier they want to work with, what should be the product that they source, and what's the right kind of design which is trending in the market. So, right from that point to finding a right supplier, making sure that they're getting the right kind of product with good quality and right timelines, uh, is all a challenge for international buyers trying to source from countries which are overseas.
Mm.
So traditionally, they used to have personal contacts or travel
Yeah.
to different countries for trade shows,
Right.
or find someone through someone,
Hmm.
and do this kind of sourcing. Also, bigger companies have, of course, teams which are overseas or have tie-ups with factories and buying houses, etc., internationally. But when it comes to buyers who are smaller in size,
Hmm.
they don't have those kind of teams, and therefore they find it more difficult to source from overseas.
Hmm.
Now, China has enabled it well because most
Hmm.
of their SMB manufacturers are listed online, or they are selling online even through digital catalogs.
Hmm.
But from countries other than China, that has not really happened.
Hmm.
So that's really what drives us. We want that uh, even our small manufacturers should be able to have a online presence and also be able to connect to these buyers who are looking for suppliers for the relevant products.
Hmm. Perfect. So, when did you spot this problem, and when was the aha moment where you said, okay, this is there is a problem, I have a solution, I think I can execute it, and let me give it a shot.
I think as part of working at Flipkart,
Hmm.
I've seen both demand and supply side quite closely. Worked with a lot of brands and marketplace suppliers, and saw manufacturing up close for variety of products. And there, my observation was that domestic e-commerce really enabled all of these suppliers to sell online and to anyone across the country, right?
Right.
But exports is still a white space.
Hmm.
99% of our manufacturers in India don't actually export.
Hmm.
And that, I believe, is a huge opportunity
Right.
uh, for us as a country to enable that, and also uh, to get that demand in India,
Hmm.
right? So I feel like it's really a good opportunity. I wouldn't say there was one aha moment,
Hmm.
but it kind of developed over time.
Hmm.
I was interested to explore this space, and as I dug deeper, I found that yes, there is a significant gap, especially for SMB to SMB businesses.
So, why is it that, considering that there is a lot of value in export, but there are also a lot of challenges in export, which is why a lot of suppliers
Right,
aren't able to export their products, even if they are,
right,
they get the end product gets sold at a higher
right.
cost. Even if that is there, there are a lot of places where their margins can get shrunk, or there are a lot of issues in terms of logistics, in terms of compliances, maybe. So, what are these challenges that most SMBs face?
Yeah. So the challenges are that there are too many legs of the problem,
Mm,
right? First is discovering each other, which is the supplier has to discover the buyer and the buyer has to discover the supplier,
mm,
which, as I said, mostly used to happen in offline situations, right?
mm,
And those are very limited or very expensive opportunities,
mm,
which most people don't have access to.
mm,
Let's say that they do get across that hurdle and are
yeah.
able to get to something,
Mm,
then, as you said, there are a lot of processes around it.
mm,
How do they make the payments? How do they
mm,
make sure that buyer's payment is secure and the supplier also feels like they're going to get paid
mm,
for what they're manufacturing?
mm,
Um, Going past that, how do they make sure that foreign currency
mm,
exchange happens?
mm,
Then the logistics part of it, custom clearance,
mm,
documentation,
mm,
and so there is a plethora of issues,
mm,
and it's really overwhelming for, say, somebody who's operating a small business with a
mm,
small team to do this,
mm,
right? And
mm.
that's where a platform like us
Tradyl
helps,
comes in.
because we take away all of that overhead
Mm,
from the buyer and the supplier, and
mm.
for them make the transaction as simple as buying from someone locally.
Okay. So, but how are you enabling these cross border payments? Because that has been a recurring issue for a lot of companies and organizations, and even some of the friends in the
Yeah.
entrepreneur circle that I know of. They say that they face a lot of issues in terms of cross border payments, and it's not easy to either pay a vendor or to get money inside India is still easier, but to get
Hmm.
it out, like when you have
Pay
to
outside,
pay
yeah.
out, it's a bit difficult.
Yeah.
So
For us, actually, because most of the transactions that we do are
it's
exports,
incoming.
we are
Mm.
mostly getting payments from our
Hmm.
buyers.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
for that, what we do is that basically most transactions happen through our platform,
Hmm.
which means that the buyers pay us and we pay the suppliers.
Okay.
So
And
that
what
way, the
is the solution that
suppliers.
you use for getting the payments? Like, what is the payment integration that you
Yeah.
use?
So we of course use bank payments for
Wire
bigger
transfers.
B2B
Okay.
transfers.
Hmm.
For smaller payments, we
Hmm.
use platforms like PayPal and Razorpay
Hmm.
and a few other integrations.
Okay.
But I also feel like the ecosystem is developing fast.
Hmm.
From the time we started 3 years back to now, there
Hmm.
are so many players which are coming up in the space.
Right.
So I'm sure that it's going to become much easier than it used to be.
A challenge that perhaps will
Yeah.
be solved
Yeah.
very soon. But yeah, as you said, incoming payments are not that
Yes,
big of a
it's
problem right now.
right.
It's the outgoing that is
Right.
a
There's a
pain point.
regularization process though
Hmm.
that happens after that,
Hmm.
which is still a significant overhead. And that's
Hmm.
something that we hope that
Hmm.
going forward, it's going
Could
to become
decrease.
easier,
Hmm.
because without that, taking smaller payments, while the payment is not a problem, but the
Hmm.
process of regularizing it after that is a big overhead.
Hmm. Okay, so coming to your personal journey, when you decided to quit the corporate job, you were at Flipkart for 6 years, more than six
Yeah.
years. And when you decided to take the leap, what were some initial challenges that you encountered?
So interestingly, firstly, I took the leap after my second baby.
Mm.
So I was on a maternity leave and I
Mm-hmm.
decided to pursue my startup that time.
Hmm.
I think the choice was, of course, that wait it out few years.
Hmm.
First, some people suggest do something on the side, build it, and then
Yeah.
quit. But
Yeah.
I really felt like it's important to give it your
Hmm.
100%, and also doing too many things doesn't help at the
Yeah.
same time.
Right.
You
Right.
have your home, and then you have work, and then
Yeah.
you can't be doing something on the side.
Yeah.
You really have
Right.
to do it full time.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the challenge, firstly, leaving a very secure and high paying job itself is a big decision to make.
Correct.
So that's one challenge. And of course, after that, the usual challenges of entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
um getting the necessary resources in place, getting the right team in place,
Hmm.
and specific to what we were doing, getting the first set of customers
Yeah.
was the most difficult thing.
Hmm. Hmm. So, but in terms of suppliers, you had to reach out to a lot of suppliers in tier two cities, right? As well, apart from just the metros.
Yes.
Like, so which are the cities that you targeted in your first phase?
So in the first phase, we of course went with suppliers whom we already had some warm connects with.
Hmm.
Given my background of e-commerce
Hmm.
and some of the founding team members who
Hmm.
joined in
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
either from export space or
Hmm.
similar backgrounds.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So we had connects with suppliers, and
Hmm.
those were the first set of people we went out to.
Right.
So we have suppliers in places like Tirupur, Noida,
Hmm.
Jaipur, Surat,
Right.
and those continue till date.
Correct.
We started with a small base
Hmm.
and kind of took the approach of demand led supply also,
Hmm.
that whatever demand we were getting, we would then expand that kind of supply.
Okay, okay, perfect. And how did you manage to reach out to overseas customers? Because that was one challenge that you faced, and how did you then sort
Yeah.
of figure that out?
So that I would say
An ongoing
is the number
process.
one challenge in
Hmm.
this space, because especially when we started out, most of the channels to reach out to the customers were offline, and like I said, most transactions were happening because of some kind of personal relationship that the buyer or supplier had, or some common connect, or meeting at offline events,
Hmm.
right? Generating a lead itself online was very difficult.
Right.
So in the beginning, even if we got a lead, either through any of the existing platforms or somebody coming on our very scrappy website
Hmm.
and just leaving a message, we used to be so happy, and uh, like one person used to be talking to them on the call, but there were three other people listening what the
Yeah.
buyer is saying.
Hmm.
So that's how it started off. But I think within a year, we kind of figured which are the channels working, and
Hmm.
also what kind of customers have a real requirement.
Hmm.
Also, reaching out to more and more customers through personal contacts, even in foreign countries, that really helped to get our first set of customers.
Hmm. So it was through going through your personal phone book. Okay, who am I connected with? Who has someone abroad? Who can I
Yeah.
call up and ask whether they can connect me with them or not? And
Yes.
you have a team of how many people?
So now we are
Like
a team of,
co-founders?
so I'm the solo founder
You're the
now.
solo founder.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a founding team
Mm-hmm.
of three people.
Okay. Lovely.
So yeah, it was browsing more through like LinkedIn and figuring out who are
Mm-hmm.
our contacts. Like we started off in Middle East as one of the first markets. So seeing
Mm-hmm.
there who are our contacts, and what kind of companies they are in, and then
Hmm. Reaching
initially
out.
traveling there and meeting some
Hmm.
of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also very important to zero in on what kind of customer this is working for,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that's not something that we knew from the beginning.
Correct.
Only after meeting a lot of folks and having a lot of conversations, we realized where the gap is.
Hmm. 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 Perfect. So you said that you conceptualized this while you were on a maternity break, and after that, of course, after the baby came and you were blessed, and then uh, were you then actively also setting up business, or you took a break, and then how long did it take for you to sort of get back into action?
So actually, I started after my maternity break, which
Hmm.
means that when I was thinking about whether to go back
Okay.
or start up
Hmm.
something,
Hmm.
so that's when I decided that it was probably a good time because I had already taken a
Hmm.
break, and instead of going back
Hmm.
to, of course, a job
Hmm.
with very high responsibilities,
Hmm.
I could also, use this time
Hmm.
to actually build something of my own.
Right. Right.
So after about 8 months
Hmm.
of my second baby is
Hmm.
when I started up.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah,
Lovely. Great. So, what kind of a support system or an ecosystem did you build around yourself in order to be able to manage toddler and then your
yeah,
own business, which is also a baby?
yeah. So two things. One is, of course, having a supportive family
Hmm.
helps, and having what we say equal partner
Hmm.
who's actually helping you out
Hmm.
at both personal and professional front.
Hmm.
That is very very important.
Hmm.
And secondly, having support in terms of people who are trustable
Hmm.
and who can look after the kids when you're away,
Right.
right?
Right.
So whether it's your parents or house help or
Hmm.
people around, I
Hmm.
think that is really critical for your peace of mind.
Right.
Only with that you can actually do something like this.
Hmm. Hmm. Correct. You started up in the year
2021.
2021, and
Yes.
from 2021 to 2024, what has changed for you? What are your learnings, and what is it uh, that you think of doing next in terms of business progress?
Yeah. So a lot of things have changed. When we started, we wouldn't know where to start, as you said, in terms of the supply, in terms of getting the customers, what to talk about, and what should the proposition be like.
Mm,
Now we have a much better idea of what is working.
mm,
Um, we believe that we have achieved our product market fit in terms of what is the product that is working for our customers,
mm,
and knowing what customers it's working for,
mm,
and therefore it's now a lot about scaling that up than about thinking what should it be that we are offering, or what markets to go to, what kind of customers to go to. So moving beyond that and now thinking of how to make this from 10 to 100. I think
right,
that's the space that we are just about entering into.
right. And how big is the entire team right now?
So we are about 20 people now.
20 people.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So when you set out to build a team, and when you still hire, or whenever you hire, what are the kind of skills that you seek? Of course, different positions might need different skills,
Yeah.
but is there a skill that you feel is rare, and is there like a job role that you thought that this was hard to find, and you
Yeah.
get the right person
Yeah.
in your budgets and everything like that? So what kind of a job role or a
Yeah.
skill would you say?
So I feel like for me, it is always less about what's the functional skill.
Mm,
And of course, it's important to have the right kind of functional skill for particular roles.
mm,
But more than that, I always feel like learnability and attitude is very, very important.
mm,
So things are changing so fast these days that you may
mm,
be best at the function that you're doing. For example, you may be very good at finance,
mm.
but you never know what's going to happen in finance 2 years down the lane,
Right,
right? And requirements within finance from one company to another may be very, very different.
right.
So it's important that wherever you go, you should be one open to learn
Mm,
and be able to pick up what are the requirements of the job,
mm,
and second, have that attitude that I'll do what it takes to
mm,
require this job, to
mm,
do this job.
mm,
um, I always look for that in the people that I hire.
mm. So, when you think of a class 12th
Hmm.
Shweta versus what you are right now, and how your entire trajectory panned out, but when you were in class 12, uh, what was going on in your head and what were you planning to do next, and where did you go? Let's start from there.
Okay, when I was in class 12, I was preparing for engineering entrances,
Hmm.
and I wanted to, like many people, get into a good college.
Okay, and then after engineering, did you do a job? आपने कोई कहीं job किया उसके बाद?
हाँ,
Okay, so where were you?
ओके। तो मैंने इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी में इंजीनियरिंग किया था,
Okay.
भारतीय विद्यापीठ दिल्ली से।
Hmm.
और उसके बाद मैंने एचसीएल टेक्नोलॉजीज में काम किया था
Hmm.
नोएडा में।
Hmm.
सो आई वाज अ सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर
Hmm.
लॉन्ग
Hmm.
टाइम बैक,
Hmm.
एंड आई यूज्ड टू लव कोडिंग दैट
Hmm.
टाइम।
Hmm.
But I also wanted to do an MBA and get into the business side of things.
Hmm.
I think working in a very big company also felt like you were doing something very small.
Hmm.
While you, I was, it was a big company
Hmm.
and a very big client. I worked for clients like Microsoft and
Hmm.
NEC Japan.
Hmm.
Uh, but it always felt like you were fixing a small part of the code, etc.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
So wanted to do my MBA. तो मैंने 2009 में IIM लखनऊ से MBA किया था।
Hmm.
और उसके बाद 5 years टेलीकॉम में
Hmm.
जॉब किया।
Hmm.
So I was doing marketing and strategy roles.
Hmm.
In a way, I was always in, after my MBA, I always got the opportunity to work in slightly early stage and growth companies. So
Hmm.
2009 to 14, while I was in telecom, those were like really high growth years in telecom also, and
Right.
exciting time.
Right.
There were
Right.
so many players and so much
Hmm.
happening.
Hmm.
So that was an interesting time, but
Hmm.
then we wanted to move to Bangalore.
Hmm.
And that time my husband was doing a startup.
Hmm.
So he wanted to move, and I had to find something. And
Hmm.
thankfully, I found that in Flipkart.
Nice.
So found a role, a business role here,
Hmm.
and moved in 2014.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, so
So when you were in college, ऐसा कुछ भी अंदाजा था that ये export side की ये
hmm,
problems हैं, या फिर SMEs क्या face कर रहे हैं, या like what are the different types of career options
hmm,
available college time पे? Did you have any outlook apart from the regular IT and software
yeah.
job that we do?
कॉलेज टाइम पे शायद इतना आइडिया नहीं रहा होगा
Hmm.
कि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में स्पेशली
Hmm.
क्या चल रहा है।
Hmm.
तो उस टाइम शायद मुझे नहीं पता होगा। आई माइट हैव वांटेड टू डू समथिंग ऑन माय ओन
Hmm.
एट सम पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम,
Hmm.
but I may not have known that I want to do this.
Okay.
I think it was more during the course of time as I have worked in e-commerce,
Hmm.
and as I've got those opportunities to work in startups,
Hmm.
that I kind of
Hmm.
thought about this opportunity.
Throughout your career graph, if you were to look at yourself and think of two skills
Hmm.
that you feel that you had and that supported you throughout, what would those be?
So one is that I consider myself like a jack of all trades,
Hmm.
which I think many MBAs are,
Mhm.
and we figure out things, right?
Hmm.
So we figure out what it requires to do a
Hmm.
particular role,
Hmm.
and that really helps
Hmm.
because, as I said, things change fast, and you
Hmm.
need to be dynamic. You need to be able to adapt,
Hmm.
and that is important. And do a variety of things. I think
Hmm.
when you're in business roles, uh, you have to understand every part of the business,
Hmm.
right? So that helped. And second thing is that resilience. I think there are always a lot of situations uh, where you face difficulties, where you are put down because of certain things that happen, whether it's when you're studying or in your job,
Hmm.
or especially when you're an
Hmm.
entrepreneur. And in those times you have to have that strength to keep moving forward.
Hmm. Hmm.
So those are two things which I
Hmm.
believe have been important for me.
Yeah. So even if there are bad days, good days will come, and you just
Yes.
keep at it.
Yeah, you have to know why you're doing a certain thing
Hmm.
and what is your motivation to do it.
Hmm.
And also, sometimes you may choose a very different path also in those situations,
Right.
but it's important to keep going on.
You were at Flipkart for 6 years and then you moved to Tradyl and started your own company. What are the skills that you learned over these 6 years that you felt helped you in your entrepreneurial journey as well?
So, apart from functional skills, wherein of course you get to know about the industry and how e commerce works, I think Flipkart has been a pioneer in e commerce. So, it's a company where we went really into the depth of everything that we were doing
Mm,
and got a good understanding of how it works end to end in terms of the categories, in terms of
mm,
tech and simple things like catalog, etc.
mm,
So that is one. But what I consider most important is that as part of Flipkart, the values that you imbibe,
mm,
like over there they say ABC. So
mm,
it's audacity, bias for action, and customer first.
mhm,
And I think they really change who you are. And it's not just about saying, but the way that things worked there,
mm,
at least when I was there, everyone had a very high sense of ownership, very high bias for action.
mm,
Even if we were doing the smallest of events, we were given very high responsibility and
mm,
also independence,
mm,
right from conceptualizing an event to running it
mm,
to celebrating successes.
mm,
It was a lot of work, but
mm,
also very exciting.
mm,
It never felt like you're doing work
mm,
which is boring, or you're doing it for the sake of somebody
mm,
else. It was always like our work.
mm,
So I think that kind of imbibed that
mm,
spirit of entrepreneurship and also high sense of ownership. So that's very
mm.
important.
So you said
And
audacity, bias for action, and customer first,
yes,
right? And when it comes to audacity, that means you could go up to your bosses and leaders, and if you have an idea or if you think something is going wrong in the company, you could just walk up to them and tell them that this is
it
do
was not
like
even about telling them, it
yeah.
was about just going out there and doing it.
Mm,
So think
mm,
big and
mm.
think about what's the big thing you could do.
Okay.
Even
Okay.
if you have a small role, how could
Mm,
you
mm,
really do something big in that role? So that's there. And I think third thing for me personally is that there were also a lot of strong examples of women leaders,
mm,
and that kind of changed the benchmark in terms of what I could do and
mm,
what I could think of for myself. So that was
mm.
also very inspiring.
So there's a lot of controversy around the IIM tag and whether it has a role to play in someone's success or not, and till what point does it even support you, and how much of a leverage do you get from it? So, what's your take on being able to have cracked the cat and then have gone to IIM Lucknow, and then how do you think it supported you, and at what point do you think the tag doesn't matter anymore?
Um, I think there's no denying that it really helps you, especially getting the first break, from campus. But we were a kind of an exceptional batch because we passed out in 2009.
Mm.
And that was
Right
not,
after recession, yeah.
yes. So that was not really a great um, time to graduate,
Mm.
even from IIMs,
Mm.
right? Why I'm mentioning that is that even though uh, many of us did not start off in very glorious companies, but I think given the skill sets and the kind of learning you have in these institutes, uh, you are able to shine through in whatever
Mm.
company and whatever role you're in,
Mm.
right? And even beyond your first job, it does still help, I think, maybe till
Mm.
your second job,
Mm.
in terms of which institute you're coming from.
Mm.
But on the other hand, I've also seen a lot of people who may not even have an MBA,
Mm.
or who may have an MBA from some unknown colleges,
Mm.
and they may also do very well.
Mm.
So
Mm.
once you're into a certain role and in a certain company, what
Mm.
also really matters is how you do over there.
Mm. Mm.
So
Mm.
uh, I wouldn't disregard that it's important,
Mm.
but it's not the only way to success either.
So, in your day to day life, your business as usual, how much of a role does technology play? I'm trying to understand that while all of us are going gaga
Yeah,
about changing tech, and it has had an impact in our daily lives when it comes to business as usual,
yeah.
human interaction versus technological intervention. Um, how much of, in actuality, where is it in terms of implementation?
I feel like you said, tech has changed so many things in our personal lives and professional lives. Um, I, being a software engineer, I think from childhood only, I was very, very interested in doing all things tech, and one of the early adopters of internet, emails,
Hmm.
etc., etc. But I feel like today, from ordering groceries to banking, uh, to education, everything is happening through a certain device.
Right.
If I talk about companies, the scale at which things are happening
Hmm.
wouldn't really be possible without technology.
Hmm.
Um, Everything is enabled, whether it is your payments, your acquisition of customers, customer support, even things like HR. So technology is in each and every function, and if you have to scale, which you know in businesses today, you always have very high growth
Hmm.
expectations and ambitions, right?
Hmm.
And if you have to do that in a non-linear manner,
Hmm.
there has to be some kind of technology that
Hmm.
is backing you.
Yeah. So no business today is a non-tech business,
Yes,
be it, banks or
right,
education or manufacturing. Tech has become a very integral
right,
part of
right.
everything. But in your case, with the advent of Gen AI, has there been anything that you felt that you could integrate, adopt, or not yet, or like
So,
whatever is your take
yeah,
on that?
like you said, manufacturing is something which is still, the nature of it is that end of the day it has to be manufactured in a factory,
Hmm.
right? But there are parts to it where technology helps. So first of all, starts with the discovery and design of the product,
Hmm.
right? So we are already seeing a lot of application of AI and technology in designing the products.
Hmm.
So right from knowing what is in trend in the market
Hmm.
and identifying that, to coming up with designs, right? So
Hmm.
let's say you have an inspiration of a particular kind of design.
Hmm.
Today you have tools where you just feed in that inspiration,
Hmm.
and the tool will come up with designs that you
And
can
you
move
use
forward
these
with.
tools at Tradyl?
Yes, so we
Hmm.
have used some of these tools, and the
Hmm.
results are fabulous. I mean, we were surprised
Amazing.
at the
Amazing.
kind of result these tools come up with,
Hmm.
and also the kind of time and resources we can save
Hmm.
through adoption of such tools, right?
Amazing.
So that is on the design part of it.
Hmm.
I think on the manufacturing part, while uh, I'm not really the one,
Hmm.
running a manufacturing unit,
Hmm.
but from the point of view of the supply partners that we
Hmm.
work with, knowing what kind of demand they're going to get,
Hmm.
uh, getting the kind of supplies that are required for those demands, demand forecasting,
Hmm.
and also right utilization of fabric, and then knowing where that entire manufacturing is, what's the stage.
Hmm.
There are so many tools which can make it more organized
Hmm.
and give more visibility in terms of what is happening, and optimize it to a level where it leads to cost savings, and therefore better margins and better efficiencies for the partners.
Hmm.
So there are definitely a lot of applications
Hmm.
of technology even in manufacturing,
Hmm.
and today not a lot of factories are using that,
Right.
but definitely there's a lot of scope.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that no one can
Yeah,
stop from happening. It's already
right,
happening. A lot of factories have adopted it, and a lot of smaller factories are
right,
just yet to adopt it because of whatever legacy systems
right.
that they already have. But yes. Okay, so if you were to advise someone who wants to start up in the fashion and retail space, which is it seems to be a very crowded space, and
Hmm.
where a lot of players exist and everyone has their own niche, and a lot exist without a niche as well, because the
Yeah.
market is huge. But of course there has to be some differentiation or some speciality or some problem that you're trying to solve. So uh, what would your advice be to someone who's wanting to enter the fashion and retail space?
My advice would be to find some kind of niche
Mm,
uh, which is interesting for uh, customers, in whatever target market they are looking at. Let's say it is India, then pick a certain customer group and find an area which not many are servicing.
mm.
We still, we always think it's crowded, but now and then we come up with uh,
Another brand,
another brand
yeah,
or another kind of
business
just
altogether.
apparel or some
Mm,
kind of bag or
mm,
some kind of shoe
mm,
which seems like, oh yeah, I want this.
mm, mm,
So
mm,
having that differentiated space is important.
mm,
And there's so much growth happening. There are so many people uh, who have more and more purchasing power.
mm,
So I think there's still a lot of growth to happen. I really don't think it's crowded. And also it's a time when things are getting very, very diversified.
mm,
It's not about one big company selling a lot, but it's about a long tail of brands uh, selling to a huge set of customers. So
mm,
I really believe in that diversification.
mm, mm. So, if you were to recommend, like you would have there, like in your own career journey, you would have observed that there are certain things that you learn through experience. Nobody taught you that, there was no syllabus, nothing.
Yeah.
And maybe if you had some heads up about it, you could things could have moved a little faster, maybe. So if you were to recommend to colleges, say, a certain course or a certain sort of skill to focus on, what would that be?
Um, I would say, especially in the context of how things are shaping up today,
Mm,
having a lot of people interaction is very, very important.
mm,
And that is becoming lesser and lesser, in fact.
mm,
For people to succeed in workplaces, and whether they're doing something on their own or whether it's um, uh, a job, it's very important to be able to work together in a team, to be able to lead a
mm,
team, to be able to communicate
mm,
what you're thinking about.
mm,
And those skills are, I feel like, shrinking.
mm.
um, I may
Very
be
true.
wrong,
No, that's
but
true.
I
That's
see a
true.
lot less interactions in human interactions happening
Mm,
between people. And like in MBA, I don't know if you read that article today, in our group,
mm.
but there's this article about how people are doing group projects also through Zoom these days,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
hostels, and
Yes, yes, that's
they're
what's happening.
joining.
Especially because there was a whole COVID batch who was
Yes,
like the 2 years they didn't go to college, and
yeah.
then I think that's what the legacy passed on to their juniors who are going to college. But then,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
that's
then,
what's
COVID
happening.
is
Hmm,
over,
over. Yeah,
and people better get back to having those human interactions,
yeah.
because it was a one-off thing. And yes, there may be jobs which can be done
Mm,
from home.
mm,
There are remote jobs,
mm,
nothing wrong with that.
mm,
But if you have to really ideate, if you have to build a team, those are things that happen in person.
mm,
And colleges should also replicate those kind of scenarios. So
mm.
encourage group projects to happen in
Right.
person, encourage more offline events,
Mm.
encourage more interactions. And as part of colleges, there used to be so many silly things we used to
Yeah.
organize and be
Right.
part of.
Right.
But those are the things you always remember.
Right. 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 And in fact, while you said that, uh, after college days are over, I see all of us participating in these conferences and bigger
Yeah.
events where I see a lot of people yawning, and there's something going on the stage, and then the networking that happens afterwards is also sometimes very superficial in nature, and
Absolutely.
sometimes very awkward as well.
Yeah.
So there could be ways to, maybe we need extracurricular activities and events which are just silly, like you said, for people who are no more in college as
Yeah.
well, maybe.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I
to
mean,
facilitate
I see so
better.
many people struggling with dating and they're trying to
Yeah,
find people
yeah, yeah.
online.
That's a
And I
big
tell them just go
problem.
somewhere offline and
Yeah,
attend some
mixer,
class
or
or
yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. What are, if you could think of, I mean, you can take your time, but if you could think of a skill that you felt used to be taught, a decade back, and in a decade from now will no more be useful, it'll just
Will no
cease to,
more be useful.
yeah, like a job role or something that'll cease to exist. For example,
Hmm.
graphic design,
Hmm.
entry level graphic
Yeah.
design may cease to exist because
Yeah.
AI image generators. Similarly, can you think of a skill or a job role?
I think a lot of jobs are under threat. But yeah, design though definitely, like you said, design is definitely something which is under threat.
Take care. While building Tradile right now, do you feel the need to revamp your website or the platform again and again, and uh, do you do that often?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we run a e-commerce platform,
Hmm.
and we have a small team.
Hmm.
So I would still say that we don't have probably the most sophisticated
Hmm.
platform, and we need to continuously see, especially from a customer point of view, what
Hmm.
are they seeing, how are they interacting with the platform,
Hmm.
and how we could make it easier for them.
Hmm.
So we keep doing that on a continuous basis.
Hmm.
And we want to firstly ensure that the functionalities are all working right. I think even
Hmm.
getting that right
Hmm.
in a complex,
Hmm.
website where there are a lot of moving parts
Hmm.
is a long process.
Cool. Okay, one more trivia
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Heads up. If there is one thing that you feel that we do use in our daily lives, or maybe used to use
Yeah.
5 years back from now, and will end up in a museum, say 30 years from now, what could it be?
Like cameras, we don't see them anymore, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Yes.
Cameras, of course, but watches, I still wear a watch,
Hmm.
but most people don't wear like a analog watch anymore.
Yes.
Most
Yes.
people are wearing
Interesting.
smart watches.
Interesting. Yeah, an analog watch might end up in a museum, say 50 years from now,
Yeah.
for sure. That was great. Great. It was great speaking to you, Shweta. Thank you so much for taking out the time for this show and the
Yeah.
podcast.
Thank you so
I'm
much,
glad to
Bhavna,
have
for
you
having
here.
me here.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much.